So we are going to discuss a very topic actually that, it sounds quite, I don't say vague, but it's actually like, I'd say it's the most important thing that people tend to not do. And I think it's the ingredient success. And it's funny, it's almost like a paradox because everybody wants to have a growing, thriving, predictable business. And this is something that I've been doing a lot of work recently as I've been building my own lead gen platform and reflecting on the conversations I've had with you guys and watching some of the challenges, opportunities in your business and reflecting on my career in sales. And, one of the things I think that everybody on this call wants, and maybe I'm wrong, but I hazard a guess that I'd say there's more of you that do that don't, is predictability and consistency, um, not just in your income, but your lifestyle. So how you approach each day, how you allocate your time. And I think we all want that. And it's funny that we all want that. We know some of the ingredients, or at least we hear some of the ingredients and how to achieve that. But sometimes we're unwilling to put in that work to do it. Right. And so in this era that we're in of just like constant communication, immediacy, we want results now. And then when we don't get them, we tend to get frustrated and we don't follow a process and stick to it. Right. We're more committed to the results than we are to the process. And again, if you feel like this, great. If you don't and say, hey, that's not me, it's fantastic. But I know for me, I fall victim to it all the time. Right. I am fallible. Nobody's perfect. So this session is really talking about the one thing that, and really, this is almost like a life lesson as opposed to just prospecting, is just consistency, right? How do we actually hold ourselves accountable to the things that we say and do for the life that we want and for the business that we want? And it sounds great. The reality of it is consistent with what, right? Like, is it the approach I'm taking? Is it the tactic I'm taking? Is it the activity I'm doing? And this is where I find that realtors and really salespeople sometimes struggle. And when we are talking about building your plans, right? When you think about your year and you think about your GCI goals, right? The realtor that you want to be, the change in your business that you want to affect, it all starts with a plan, right? It all starts with the number that you want to achieve. Hopefully, it's larger than it was the year before. And then a methodical way to go about achieving it, being really efficient with your time and spend. And what I like to say is ruthless prioritization around the activities. So today we're going to focus on turning your prospecting engine, if you will, into like a predictable channel for growth, right? And what are the habits that successful realtors do and successful salespeople follow? So navigating this path to prospecting mastery, we talked about this little bit of a paradox, right? We all want these uh, to achieve more, do better, grow professionally, uh, again, have a thriving business, but we struggle with the effort you have to do, right? We all hear the age old idioms like practice makes perfect, like you got to be committed to the process. And it all makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside, but it's tough to do it, right? Um, and it's also tough to develop what is the approach? What am I actually mastering? Is this the right thing I'm doing? Am I wasting my time? Am I getting the feedback? Right? Am I stopping celebrating success? Am I replicating that? Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about building your consistency engine. And then we're going to end with what are the things that you can do and take away from here. This is something that I think is really the red meat of these sessions, is not just talking in broad brushstrokes, but what can you walk away with saying, you know what, I'm going to commit to this. I'm not going to try for a day. All right. I'm going to commit to this and see, is this something I can do? And I believe it is. And like any habit, right? You wake up, you commit to it, and it becomes habitual. Right. And I can't remember how many days it takes to build a habit, but it's like building a muscle. If you've done it before and you've lost it, it's just reworking the muscle. And if this is the first time you do it, it's building a capability. And I'd venture to say in all walks of life that you have lived, you have committed to something. And I this is what I tell people when, say, well, Brandon, I can't do it or this and this and this. You prioritize the things that you want in life. Miraculously, it always ends up happening. So if you're intentional about this, you will be intentional about the things that you will do and you will focus and commit to them. So there's inconsistency trap, right? When we get busy, we get frustrated, we're not getting results, we keep beating our head up against the wall, we just tend to stop. And what happens is you have cycles in the market like we're experiencing today, inventory is tight, and you don't have a process in place, right? So you might have had a fantastic year. You might attribute your own personal salesmanship to it, like it's all because of me, not because of the market. We hit a trough or some period in the market where not a lot of movement, right? Supply and demand aren't meeting. Buyers are sitting on the sideline and we're struggling and we don't know what to fall back and lean on. So we're throwing things up against the wall. We don't have a plan. We don't have a structure in place that is hey, you know what? My sphere might be tapped out. These individuals don't seem to be in the market like they were. Something has changed exogenous to our business, right? That impacts it, like interest rate, whatever it may be. How do I have an always on prospecting strategy? What am I doing evergreen all the time? Not just, oh my God, I got to turn it on now because I don't have business. So we talked 2 weeks ago around the need to always, or 2 or 3 weeks ago, around the need to always have, an always on prospecting strategy. And it's for these moments, right? But it's not just prospecting just for the sake of prospecting. It's knowing your buyer profiles, right? Who are you targeting? What's the message, the hook that actually resonates with them? How are you targeting them? The frequency. What assets are you using to connect with them? How are you building that relationship capital? And not just focusing on, well, they didn't respond or they're not in the market now, resisting that and knowing we are laying the seeds. You're planting the seeds for this harvest. And the harvest doesn't always bloom the next day. It takes time. The frustration comes from I'm putting in the effort and I'm not reaping the rewards, but this is something where you put in the effort and the rewards, almost like a stream, like a production line, come. Right. So it's about building that process and also realizing that, again, the conversion reality. You guys see it every day. I don't, you guys do. Right. You live it. Every single conversation doesn't amount to something. Oh my God, it was a waste of time, so I don't do it. I was on the phone with one of my close friends yesterday, and his mother was a realtor. I think it was a company you guys might be familiar with it called Coach Realty. I think in the Northeast, they're quite big. And she was telling me about both her husband and wife were in the business. And one of the, I guess in the neighborhood they worked in, they were the first realtors. So they really worked that neighborhood, knew the community. And she was saying that her husband, every time they went to dinner, he was intentional about meeting every person in that room down to the point where he sat in the restaurant, the local restaurant, so he could see everybody walking in and out. And he made an effort to get to know them. Now, back in the day, that's that offline prospecting here, but building that relationship capital. But that was like, she told me that was his thing, right? In that environment, he could connect with individuals, he could contextualize who he was in a safe setting, but it was an always on thing. And he was sitting at that restaurant 2 days a week, and that was part of his thing. Now, I'm not saying you guys do that. This is years ago, but like just knowing that, hey, I got to talk to a lot of people. I got to have people get comfortable with who I am. I got to meet them where they're at. And this is something I need to do repeatedly. This speaks to someone being committed and intentional about that activity. All right. So that last thing, this missing link we talk about, right? When someone has an opportunity and they're thinking about, hey, I spoke to someone, or I remember someone was talking about it, you want to be that person they talk to. And that comes from repetition, right? That is implanting whoever you are, whatever you sell in their mind for when that moment strikes. And you never know when it's going to happen. Right. But that's the laying the groundwork. So some core habits here, and some of these should be really obvious. Maybe some of them aren't, but this is something that I think is just, it's not uh, specific to real estate. I think this is kind of, specific to just running a good, successful business. And what do top sellers do? Right. The time blocking. If I don't know about you guys, but this is where my biggest challenge. All right. I'm in the throes of fundraising for my company now. Most important thing I need to be doing, yet I don't create the time to do it. And so what do? I tend to go to the thing that I'm most comfortable, right? Because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy. And I resist the things that it's rough, right? It's like sandpaper. I don't want to get rejected. Doesn't feel good, right? So let me spend my time doing something that doesn't necessarily add the value to the business. It's not solving my need now, but it prevents me from having to feel this sense of rejection or facing a reality that might be uncomfortable. Right. So the quickest thing to do, I don't know if you guys have read, Mel Robbins' book, uh, Let Them Be, which is obviously a national bestseller, but like this ability to go the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and just do it, right? And just commit to it. Just getting over that hurdle mentally. Uh, that's a big thing. But once you do it, you realize that it's never as bad. And that time blocking piece, just committing time to your day around the most important thing in your business. And I know some people might debate that, right? But your next lead, your next opportunity, identifying that, that's the lifeline of the business. So if you're not committing time to do that, what are you committing time to? Data cleanliness, the information that you get. When we first started these sessions, we were talking about like how do we put information in our CRM? What information do we put? How are we tracking these calls, relationship notes, the good, the bad, right? The times they did hang up on us. Uh, what are we learning? Wrong time of day, all that stuff. Data counts, right? And not data just for the sake of having data. Oh yeah, I took the note. What is the data telling you? What's the insight? All right. Your process is as good as how you document it and how you follow it. Right. And having really clean, good data allows you to do the follow-ups and remember the things that count. Right. Have that little anecdotal note that might move the needle. But not doing it once, committing to it. Right. The follow-up routine, we talked about this, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. It's critical. And so you guys all are familiar with having a CRM, right? Good data in, good outcomes out, making sure you are methodical in how you follow up and not just follow up for the sake of following up, right? Using those notes to influence how you follow up, which channel you follow up with, right? And what you're saying, and making sure that what you're saying is of value, right? And when you do it, think about actually put yourself in the recipient's shoes and say, what would get me in the cacophony of noise that comes through every single day? News on the thing, emails, solicitations, noise. What's going to get the person to stop in their tracks? Are we touching a point of tension, a point of opportunity? Are we making things scarce, bringing this opportunity forward, right? The language counts in the follow up. Regular outreach, again, is part of that follow up routine, not just small bursts, consistency. We talked about ways in which I think we on this call, or I was talking with someone else. Um, well, it's kind of weird. If I don't have anything to follow up, how do I just follow up with someone out of the blue? Little things like, hey, you crossed my mind today. I saw this opportunity, immediately thought about you. Not so difficult. People love that. All right. And you can make that part of a regular practice. And funny enough, people won't realize that, like, wow, I seem to be crossing your mind a lot, or you seem to be thinking about me a lot. They actually appreciate it, it's placating them. They like that. People want to feel like they're needed. All right. And then the last thing, lead input. And this is something that's near and dear to me. It's the daily expansion of your leads, right? How are we growing our opportunities? right? Whether they be neighborhoods that we want to pull information from, right? Whether they be going out networking, uh, using your existing sphere, connecting the dots, right? Targeting affinity groups, doing what that gentleman was doing, maybe sitting in a restaurant, introducing yourself. It's funny. The room that I was going to present in, the gentleman who had reserved it, I was saying I speak to a group of realtors every Wednesday around sales strategies, around prospecting. You didn't ask me, I just volunteered that. And he's like, "Oh, I may need to talk to you." All right. So just from me volunteering that, that's a connection point. He didn't ask, thought it was topical. Maybe he didn't care, maybe that wasn't one, but I created that opportunity just because I was telling him what I was doing. Right. So all those things all add up. What gets measured gets better, right? And as we get better, we tend to see better results. So as difficult as it may seem, because conversations aren't linear. We're not sitting in front of our laptop every day, cataloging them, writing them down, putting them in CRM. They happen impromptu, right? When you least expect it. But one of the things that I try to do every single day is take stock of what happened in that day, right? And somehow organize it so I know what I'm going to do with that, right? What's the next step? And I think one of the things, if I can impart a lesson for people here, and you guys might do it, but I've been really intentional about it is, and I notice it when people don't do it, is leaving conversations where an opportunity, you think there's an opportunity, or there's something to where what you were discussing with them connects or is tethered to what you do. All right. Following and making sure there's a next step to that conversation. And I used to not do it and left it up to chance. And then I always felt like, oh, well, it's awkward because now I'm reaching out of the blue, and then I have to context set again. But little things like, oh, I'd love to continue this conversation, right? We should connect next week. Right? Hey, what are you doing next week? Love to sit down and learn a little bit more about what you do, right? Having them commit to it, knowing that you value that next engagement, but also you run a business, right? Time, accountability, that matters, right? And that anything that you actually value of any serious nature or severity, rather, right? That's important. You usually allocate the time to. You don't leave it up to chance, right? So you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't take that same approach for your business. Leave it up to chance. So be very, very intentional, especially when you spot opportunity. All right. So how do we build this consistency muscle? It's 30-minute daily power hour, right? This is like the most difficult thing. I get distracted every which way. It is this to me like is my Achilles heel. Uh, but when I was thinking and reflecting on these slides and this content and thinking about really good sellers that I have seen, what are these common traits that they do? And time again, they ruthlessly prioritize. They have an ability to say no and be comfortable with it, right? And oddly enough, maybe it's odd, they put themselves and their business first, right? And everything else second, tertiary, whatever it may be. Meaning, hey, if I'm going to commit to this, I said I'm going to do this. This is part of the process of doing it. I'm going to prioritize it and not let anyone in here. I'm going to put a moat around it. Right? And then what you have is just this maniacal focus on the right activities, and you start to build that muscle and work that muscle. And it's not a surprise that like no one walks away, even if they've been told, no, I don't have time for that, lacking respect to them, because many times their results speak for themselves. But they actually realize what they intended to do because they put guardrails around it, right? And they prioritize its importance. So committing 30 minutes Doesn't seem like a ton of time. For me, it is. I've been trying to do it for 1 hour. I've not accomplished that yet, if I'm honest with you guys. Uh, but that is my goal for myself at the end of each day to do that, right? Accountability partners. This is like so for me when I hear it, I like cringe because I'm like, oh man, like I hate the fact I gotta talk to somebody and tell them and like share these things. It's so like cliched and like, do people really do that? At least that's how I feel. And it's funny. One of the biggest, and this is just me kind of opening up to you guys on this journey that I'm on, right? Is I've been a leader of large commercial teams, sales teams, and have people ask for feedback and come to me, and it feels good, props up my ego, like they're coming to me. But I really didn't have anybody to go to when I still had questions, right? So a lot of guesswork. I think I'm guessing right, especially early in my career when I was an executive. And one of the things that I've embraced is being uncomfortable. And I used to in settings want to have all the answers and thought that that was a superpower. And I realized that the superpower actually is being comfortable saying, I actually don't know. How do you do it? Right. Not only do you let others in, you have a lot of valuable lessons that people from their success can share with you and you can get better. It's the humility. And in this moment now, because I'm in areas that I've not done, might be second guessing myself, I've actually have accountability partners, right? To stress test some assumptions, to challenge my thinking and not get defensive about it, but actually learn and adjust. And it's been difficult, but I think for me, I've got a lot of growth. And the things I was most scared about doing, all of a sudden, like, oh, that wasn't that bad. And in a weird way, I kind of like doing it, right? But I avoided it because, I didn't want it to, yeah, oh, I could easily do that. But for some reason, I didn't do it, secretly knowing why. So taking that leap of faith, building in this support system, picks you up, is brutally honest with you, shares the wins, successes, and their approaches, and not reloading, but listening, right? Not getting defensive when someone has feedback, like, oh, I never thought about it like that. You know what? You're right. Right. And then holding them accountable. Right. If you guys set goals with each other, it's tough to come to that meeting and you didn't do it, especially when another person did. Nobody wants to show up and be like, oh, I didn't do it. Right. Like nobody wants to be that person. So embrace that. I think automation, we talked about that. I think this is key. Embrace the technology here, right? Be more efficient, resist the temptation to jot things down manually. You have a system that reminds you, pings you, allows you to do mail sequencing and dripping. Use it. A lot of people don't embrace the tech that's around them for lead generation, for message automation, all those things, right? That is making that 30-minute daily power hour. That's you maximizing your efficiency here. Let the tech do what the tech does. It's not going to do everything for you, right? This is the tech amplifies everything that you do that's great, right? So whatever your strategy is, you want to do it at scale, use the tech to achieve it at scale, right? 10, 15, 20 years ago, you couldn't do that, right? So your impact is only one-to-one, peer-to-peer. It can only go so far. Now we can touch many people, do things much faster, and add dimension to our business across time, space, right? Embrace it, and invest in learning how to optimize the tech. Don't run from it, invest in it. And this last thing, trigger-based prospecting, right? I call this opportunistic prospecting. So just being aware of what's happening, right? There is, if you are paying attention, both to news, events, economic indicators, opportunity that is all around you, right? Now, you might not be able to make the intuitive leap from this opportunity to this or this, piece of data or insight to this opportunity, right? But there are things that are happening, right? There are opportunities to transact if you are focused. I'll give you an example. So one of the things that we are adding in our platform is the age of individuals in the home and the last sales date, and which seems really obvious. But one thing that wasn't obvious is I wonder if you could actually filter by the age. And if you could filter by the age, you could identify people who were elderly, who might be living in a home, who might be empty nesters, who might have a need to downsize. And again, it wasn't obvious that, yes, we know it's an opportunity, but how do I create more of that opportunity when it's there? And then how do I build a business around it? And then how do I be intentional about, like, oh man, like, hey, if we know the market's not moving, we know that these people might be sitting on a ton of equity. These people might be sitting in a home that they clearly don't need all those bedrooms. They need to make a transaction. They don't know what to do. Whatever it is, right? Like, okay, there's a profile of seller that I can go after and be intentional with if I just think about what is actually happening around me, right? And granted, that was specific to an insight inside of a platform that we noticed. But the point that I'm trying to make is when we start to listen to certain things and take in cues, right? Like something might be triggered, and that opportunity might come when you least expect it. And you might have that aha moment. It happens to me all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to write that down. I got to jot that down. Thank you, in the moment, right? So just being aware in your business, you guys know the triggers, right? Being aware of them and not just, oh, that's interesting. Thinking about how it impacts your business and is there a business use case and how can I find those individuals that trigger might impact the most? And this is something I said at the outset, being faithful to the process, not the results, right? The results, they're going to come, they're going to go, right? You hope that they come more often than, or you hope that you have the results more often than you don't, but they're not going to come because, you
Mhm.
know, results feel bad
Mhm.
for you. So, oh, someone might need to go on mute. Results aren't going to come just because they feel bad for you. You've been putting in a lot of work. We're going to throw you a result. It doesn't work like that, right? Results are going to come because you've been committed to a process and methodical about it, right? And this is about, again, like I said at the outset, defining your core objectives. What are you, why are you doing what you are doing? And I know it sounds like a really obvious question. Really ask yourself. You wake up every day and do this for a reason. It could be out of purpose. I like helping people. It could be I want to make X amount of money. I don't care what it is, right? What is that objective? And your ask of yourself is, if I know this is my objective, what is the highest and best use of my time, or what are the activities that have the most impact or map to that objective, right? If you knew what your objective was and there's a series of activities and you were intentional about achieving it, why would you waste your time on stuff that doesn't work towards that? And by the way, we all do it, right? When we do the postmortem, like, why did I waste time doing that, this and this and this, right? But this is about understanding, okay, if this is my objective, who are my buyer segments? What is the product I'm selling? What is the area that I'm focusing on? Is there enough transaction velocity in this area? Is there enough meat on the bone for me to achieve this objective? Right? Who are my targets? How am I talking to them? What am I saying? What channels am I using? What communication assets am I using? How much money do I want to invest behind that? Is it a repetitive process? Is there waste? Can I remove it? Looking at it, tweaking it when you see it works, doing more of the stuff that works, pulling back on it when it doesn't, and being ruthless about your focus on that process. Ruthless about your focus on the action, right? The activities, behavior, and mindset. And what I found is you can have all the activities, you can do all the right things. The consistency, it's a mindset. It's really an ask of how committed are you to achieving that outcome? What are you willing? What are you what are you willing to, what's the saying? What am I uncompromising on? Right? It's a mindset thing, right? So the sooner you shift your mindset and say, I'm going to commit to this because I want this that bad, right? You'll start to see value unlocked and those wins happen, right? I don't know about you guys, I'm big on energy. And what you put out there, you tends to get reciprocated, right? So when you start to put out, I am committed to this, I am going to do the things, you start to see your behavior and all your activities and everything shift towards that. And then that opportunity gravitate back to you. So for you guys, if we think about goals to set this week as we kind of walk away from this session and, Brandon, these are some good insights, but how do they translate into things that I can do in action each day? My ask of you guys to think about this is break this down. Micro goals, right? What's digestible? What can I do daily that doesn't seem so like, oh my God, that just seems like so much. I can never do it. Break everything down into little bite-sized goals, right? So every single day you can say, I won the day, right? You heard when sales, you build a series of yeses, right? Small little yeses to get people over the line. This is no different than that, right? 5 high quality contacts to your database. And I can already see some people are probably like, oh yeah, like sounds great. And they go about their day, like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to get 5 people. Oh, I'll get 10 tomorrow and do this. Sure, you might do that. But and again, I'm actually going through this right now. So the challenge to you is as much as the challenge to me is at the end of every single day or throughout your day doing this, holding yourself accountable at the end of the day, did I do it? All right. And I don't care how you get it. It could be through a prospecting tool, it could be through conversation, it could be through your network, whatever it is. Right. But like, how do I use the resources around me to reach more than I can reach? The network effect. And it's crazy. 2 nights ago, I was talking with someone, and by me sharing, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of people who fit this profile, that person gave me 10 people. 7 of those 10 I actually knew, but for some reason couldn't create the capacity to sit down, focus, and think about my network. And so just by me reaching out to that person, he refreshed the network. I then reached out to those people and have 4 meetings next week. Right. So whether you want to call that an accountability partner, I don't even know. But like the things that might be obvious, you might have hit a dead end, right? A blocker. You never know, right? Like how you're going to get a connection or who you can use to even refresh some old ones or create new opportunities. So don't make this about you and your seat. Think about like the people around you and utilizing them as well. 5 strategic follow-ups. And when we say strategic, right, like think about individuals who you've connected with, who you've lost touch with, or you're like, man, I need to refresh that. Think about something that's happening right now that might be topical to one of your contacts that use that as an opportunity to refresh the conversation around something, maybe just a check in, see how you're doing. Something beyond just the, uh, hey, here's a market report, like something to show that you're thinking about them, value what they have to say, value the connection, right? And are looking for an opportunity, looking to create value for them. And I love this third one, right? The handwritten note. These things, I think, move the needle. Uh, a lot of times if I was applying for a role or a job and met with a recruiter or whoever the person, the hiring manager was, I'd actually follow up with a handwritten letter, right? Everybody can send an email. Resist the path of least resistance, right? Be disruptive and stand out. Handwritten notes means you care. It's actually a reflection on how you treat your business and your clientele, right? If someone's willing to take the time, one, if they have stationery, kudos to them, right? They value first impression. Someone's willing to take the time to do it, right? That means they value care is something of high concern for them. And they'll probably take that same approach to how they transact with you and how they treat the relationship, right? So there's all these intended meanings and unintended positive externalities that come from that. And then the meaningfully with prospects on social media. I think this is really interesting. Like on my LinkedIn channel, I actually started to post instead of just putting out my point of view. I actually asked people, I'm curious to know what you think. You'd be surprised. Maybe this is a surprise or not. People have points of view on a lot of different things, right? You go on CNN and all the news channels, you got pundits all day long who want to tell you how they feel about X, Y, and Z. You're wrong. I'm right. This, right? There's something interesting about provoking some of that opinion, right, around a topic that is important of discussion. Now, I'm not saying do something around like, a political, uh, tension point, but like something that's going on in the industry, right? Something that you're a subject matter expert on, a shift that's happening, right? Like obviously the stuff that's happening right now with clear cooperation, all these things, how the real estate market is kind of being disrupted a bit. Uh, I think it's great red meat to just opine on and see how your peers might feel, uh, see how your potential prospects view certain things, right? Uh, but provoke, and you'll see engagement, right? And it's actually like fascinating to see what conversations come from that. And then these macro goals, right? Like how does this ladder up into like, you know, the larger, bigger picture, right? Your goal, you want to win more listings. Like that's why you're in the business. Uh, how do we turn those high quality contacts into actually high quality meetings and those meetings into listing appointments, right? So set the goal. I'm not saying you're going to achieve it, right? But if you don't set a goal, you don't even know how you're orienting yourself. What is success? What is not? At least it's measurable, right? Expanding your database, right? This is where, some of the prospecting platforms, if you don't have a big sphere, if you're not terribly social, might help, right? Being able to actually identify qualified prospects, right? Filter neighborhoods, understand target buyers, target sellers. Um, you constantly want to be doing this. This is something you always need to be working. Um, that will end up being your sphere, right? And actually committing to this 30-day consistency challenge that we talked about. Now, this is going to be the hardest part for you guys as it is for me, right? It's almost like dry January, right? Like, how can I just say, hey, right? In order to get uncommon, in order to get, call it different results, right? I have to adopt different behavior. And that's really what this is. So I don't just say I want to grow my business and then do the same things of your business of yesteryear, right? Wouldn't make a lot of sense, right? If you want a different business, you got to embrace different behaviors. And committing to this 30-day challenge, I mean, what's there to lose? You're certainly not going to be worse off by being more consistent about your approach, right? I've never seen somebody come back and be like, you know what, Brandon, I committed to this approach. I was really consistent with it. And I'm actually worse off than I was before. My business is in shambles. If you find somebody who said that, have them reach out to me. I can't find one. Now, if you're doing the wrong things for 30 days, maybe that's the case. but you guys know your business. You guys know what should know to a degree what has the biggest impact, right? And if you don't, I challenge you guys to think about how the years in which you were successful, the things that which you did do where you kind of got in the rhythm, got in that flow state, right? What were you doing, right? Was it the market? Was it your activity? Was it your approach? And then asking successful realtors, what do you do, right? You'll find out that success leaves breadcrumbs. And so don't try to do it all yourself. Look at the ones that are, man, I want to be like that. Like, what are some of the things you do? Exercise that humility, right? And try to adopt some of those behaviors. And then the last thing is making sure that you stay committed to using the tools and systems that you have, right? CRM is not just there when you think about it, it's your accomplice, it's your amplifier, right? It's your production line. It's there to keep you organized. But think about tech. Use tech the way tech should be used, right? And the 30-day consistency challenge that I was talking about is this. I'm not going to go through everything on here except for the 4 big points, right? Commit, which we talked about ad nauseum. Track, right? In order to know you're achieving something and making progress towards something, you got to have a goal. You got to, whether it's a number, whatever it is, you got to track it. Otherwise, what's the point? Celebrate. It's what a lot of people don't do, right? Even the little wins, right? Like take time, reflect on it, right? Revel in that. Because if you don't, it can be a hard slog, right? So you want to give yourself a pat on the back, it builds confidence, right? Builds positive momentum and share. Again, don't just keep it to you because it's easy when you don't have to hold up to the things that you said or you haven't shared it. Like, I always tell people, write it down. You don't write it down, it's nothing, right? It's fleeting, doesn't mean anything. You can't hold yourself accountable to it. When you write something down, you got to look at it every single day, right? You hold yourself accountable. When you tell people, you're fearful if you don't, that they may call you out on it. Doesn't make you feel good. But if you keep it here, you can hide behind it. You can always have an excuse. Oh, well, I couldn't do it this time because, this came up or I had to do this, so it's okay. Right. And it just keeps on being okay and okay. Before you know it, you are okay with a mediocre business. And I don't think anybody on this call got in this business to be mediocre. You got in it to be great. And if you're going to do it, you got to ask yourself, what am I willing to do to get there? Otherwise, what's the point? Right. I'll say this as I close here. Think about how much time you spend on all of this stuff, right? Time, money, effort, and where you spend your time is clearly what you value the most. And so when spending all this time, you would think that, well, hey, I'm doing it so I can achieve something, right? I don't think if people are just walking around being like, oh, I just love to waste time, right? If you're committing 10, 15 hours of your day to work towards something, or are you finding that the 10 to 15 hours you're committing to your day, if you're working towards, you haven't even planned around? So you're spending the effort doing the time, but you didn't put a plan together. And it's crazy to think about it because we plan in other areas of life, but on our own business, we're reluctant to do it. So are you raising your hand to me or are you raising your hand to somebody in the background? Uh, so it's this weird paradox, and it's something I've been doing a lot of thinking about.
How are you?
And it's for me, it's the planning at the outset that is the thing that makes this lesson plan, whatever you want to call it, makes the consistency, like the consistency is part of the recipe. The planning, those are the ingredients in the dish, right? The consistency is how you cook it. But if you fail to plan, the saying, right? So I want you guys to think about that, right? Every single day you're waking up, going at this, giving your best effort, and it is a tough job, right? And you guys are passionate, invested people in this, right? You're invested in everybody else's success, your client's success, right? Be invested in yours, right? Put that playbook, that blueprint, that game plan together, right? And talk to your peers, right? See what people are doing that is working. Experiment, right? There's no risk, nothing to be lost. There's everything to be gained. So, um, yeah, commit this 30-day consistency challenge. You guys can do it. Um, yeah. So they'll circulate these slides. The one thing that I was going to tell you guys is I've talked a lot about this playbook or game plan, like what is the thing that you guys are going to commit to? And it's you probably like, Brandon, I get it, but like, I just don't even know the first thing to do. Like, I don't have a blueprint, a guideline. Like, so I've actually created a game plan and a playbook uh, for realtors that helps with this if you guys are struggling. And um, I'm going to share it with Shirag and ask that he share it with you. And I am open to setting up sessions with you guys if it's of something that's of interest to you to go through. And it's something that I've had to do in my career when building brand plans and thinking about, hey, like if you're running a very big brand, like how are we going to achieve our commercial objectives and laying that plan out, right? Having to present that plan, right? And own up to that plan. And as small business owners, you should think about your business no differently, right? It allows you to actually tweak things, refine things when things break down, actually pinpoint where they might have broken down as opposed to just guess, right? And guess wrong. So for me, when we talk about the consistency piece, it's great, but I think there's a foundational piece here that really needs to be done by you guys. And I found that people are just reluctant to do it because it is kind of like, oh, I got to do more work, but it's time well spent because it makes you so much more efficient throughout the year. And you hold yourself accountable and you can map back everything you're doing back to this plan, right? So I will ask Laura the best way to kind of share that with you guys and set up some kind of tissue sessions if you guys want to go through that plan. I've done it for some members of the Voyage Real Estate team last year, and to no surprise, those who committed to that plan actually saw their business increase year over year because they invested in it. And those that didn't, I think you know what happened there. So, how are we doing on time? 9:21. I'll kind of open up the floor right now. I know I've done a lot of talking. Hopefully, you guys got a lot out of this session. But if there's any questions you guys have for me, if there's anything that you guys have done or any wins that you guys have recently, I'd love if anyone would share because I think it's really good hearing from your peers around things that you've seen that have worked, habits you've adopted, or what you do in your daily work just to learn from. So I'll open up the floor to you guys. Oh, come on now, guys. No one has
Brent,
any. There we go.
hi, it's Todd Simons in LA. I
Hey,
saw
Todd.
some notes, and I believe it was from, is it Philly in San Diego? About,
Ah,
yeah?
sorry, I must have missed that out of my chat. There
Okay,
we
yeah,
go.
they were in notes. So these are, I guess, questions that might want to be,
Yes.
elaborated on. But, um, could it be helpful to prospect around colleagues' wins, listings, or sales? And I don't do enough of this, but I am on a team with a very successful leader. And,
Yes.
and I'll tell you, I mean, those are your sales.
Of
And
course they are. Todd,
yeah,
let
I
me tell
mean,
you something. You hit the nail on the head, right? And like, should you be doing that 100%, right?
Totally.
And if it's the talisman, the team leader, if it's just your colleague, that is a reflection on your team, depending on how you message it. This is how I would messaging it. Your team has a track record of success, right? This is how we have been, this is how we've learned the business, this is how we execute our team, this is the standard we hold ourselves up to. It's not just that one person, it is a shared way of working and a shared behavior amongst the team, right? People like to be close to, call it winners, success in our business, transaction, right? So whether it's yours, whether it's somebody, a close cousin of yours, it's a shared win for everybody, and you can 100% leverage that. I don't know if that answered your question or if you want to elaborate more, but I wholeheartedly agree with that approach. Um,
No,
yeah,
I was just commenting for sure. It kind of echoes what you're saying, Brandon, but it's that first of all, your team leader or maybe one of your colleagues or somebody, I mean, that is, um, I hope that they Google them. I hope because they have a better following and a bigger following and footstep in the business than I do. So
yep,
you encourage that. Also, I push the fact that I'm part of a team and I
yeah,
have, I've got someone on, so you're not just hiring me, but you're hiring, you know, this team and this leader who is, you know, has a great market share in the area, who has a great track record of success.
oh
And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, you don't want to, that's a missed opportunity if you're trying to
missed
just,
opportunity.
yeah, if you're trying to really just stand on your own. Now, if somebody doesn't have that, but I've heard of people, Philly, that people are like, they'll just any listing that's your company.
Yeah,
Any Compass listing is a listing of yours in a sense because it's a Compass listing, and people prospect around, that. There's a big thing I don't know if you see, but online with on Instagram and whatnot, where people just take other people's listings and they give them credit for it. They tag them, or I don't know if they tag them, but they say this, this is the listing of, but they're just trying to get eyeballs and they want people to click through and reach out to them. They're not even their listings. They're not even their companies. These are just agents who are leveraging, attractive listings.
activity.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'd say
yeah.
all the more power to you and go for it. That's the way it is. That's the way to go.
Yeah, and Philly, and it's 100% spot on, Todd. Thank you for that comment. For me, I think you're building a brand. There's your personal brand, right? And your track record, but there's also people are choosing companies. And rightly or wrongly, like all the real estate companies pretty much all do the same thing, degrees of difference, right? But they all have we do this better, we have more reach here, we look and feel like this, whatever it is, right? But people at the end of the day, all things being equal value, who's transacting the most? At the end of the day, what people care about? Supply and demand. Is it moving? Are you moving my supply? Do you have buyers? Right. So whether it's you who's doing it, whether it's your company has a better track record doing it, or I am raising awareness around the activity, right? And more activity means we have more people circulating. There's more opportunity. Doesn't necessarily mean it's you, but it's the company that you're affiliated with. People tend to gravitate to that, right? So, like in our heads, psychologically, it's the path of least resistance, right? We stereotype. Stereotyping is not a bad thing. We see a piece of information, we say, huh, interesting, and we have to move on to the next. So if the one takeaway is, wow, that listing transacted, it was a Compass, next piece of stimulus, I'd love for them to be left with that impression. And if you're the one who posted it, right, then you're closely aligned to that, you'll get the benefit of it. That's just how the human brain works, right? So take advantage of the psychology piece here, right? And there's no right or wrong way. There's just, I'm trying to get to the outcome, right? And how can I hack? How can I cheat it? Not saying that it's, oh my God, like, I didn't do the thing. Oh, shame on you. Nobody said that you can't do that. Like, if you got the intended result, I didn't say I'm the one who sold it. I just celebrated you and it got me a thing. Like, why is that? There's no rules to that, right? You were just smarter. You picked up on what someone was attracted to, and all they care is the takeaway. Does that make sense? Yeah. Andrea, I saw something that said 21 days. I don't know if that was in reference to 21 days is probably the habits. It takes 21 days to build a habit. Thank you for that.
That's correct. I
Yes.
just want to say, Brandon, right?
Yes.
It is such a delight to listen to you. Your use of the English language is fabulous. So thank you for
Oh,
starting my day with that.
all right. I'll take a compliment anywhere I can get it.
You're welcome.
Yes. As often in your farm area, the sale listing condos for someone outside your office. Okay, we talked about that. I don't see any other questions in the meeting chat. Um, but if you guys feel good after walking away with this and clearly if the point that I was trying to make came through, that's my hope. Around that consistency piece, great. But again, my bigger point for you guys, which is not in these slides, but one that I want you guys to walk away with is the importance of planning, right? The importance of planning. So I will talk to Laura and see how I can get this game plan document, template document. I think you guys will look at it and be like, Jesus Christ, I wish I had this. But it's one thing to have it. It's one thing to actually commit to it and go through the process of putting that plan down and holding yourself accountable to it. But I think working with someone like myself to kind of help you think about it, which sections are really high importance, which, yeah, we can figure that out. This is you need to have, I think would be helpful. So we'll get some communication out to the group about that. And again, I'm always here as a resource. You guys can reach out to me for any questions you might have as a follow-up to this or just in general. And if you guys want to set up time to go through the game plan, again, more than happy to. But I wish you all a wonderful day. And yeah, consistency counts, guys.
Thank you,
Consistency
Brandon.
counts. Cheers.